Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Undervalued Investor YouTube channel, where today we're taking a look at three dividend kings. For you dividend lovers out there, we're going to be breaking down Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and even Pepsi. These stocks have been owned by the mega wealthy portfolio managers of the likes of Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio obviously making a lot of videos as of recent talking about the changing of world order. I highly recommend you go check it out. But first and foremost, the three stocks we're going to review, obviously Procter & Gamble, J&J, and Pepsi. These are huge holdings within his portfolio, and these have been some of the most recession-proof stocks anyone could own, really stabilizing against market volatility. Procter & Gamble over the last 5 years from a capital gain perspective has outperformed the S&P 500 up 86% with a starting yield currently of 2.42%. Over the last decade of dividends, we're not talking about substantial growth, but you are getting dividend growth along with capital appreciation. So 0.56 cents for the 10-year ago quarter, whereas today it's at about 94 cents, not an exact doubling over a decade. Taking a look at the dividend scorecard, this thing's been paying for 66 years at an average 5-year growth rate of about 5.68%. Procter & Gamble generated $20.5 billion in net sales, up 5%, with an increase of gross profit of about 14% to $9.9 billion. And if you want to get an idea of what's going on in the consumer's mind, this company gets great exposure to these different sectors of these consumer staple products, with beauty being the forefronted growth vector for them. It's actually up 8% year over year, generating $3.7 billion. Coming in next here, that for the biggest growth rate was baby, feminine, and family care, generating $5.1 billion, up 7% in comparison to even their largest sector being basically fabric and home care, which was generating $7.2 billion, but was only up 5%. Procter & Gamble, an incredibly resilient company. Let's get into number two here, Johnson & Johnson. This is kind of a diversified healthcare company, trading up only 28.68% over the last 5 years, actually underperforming the S&P 500 with a slightly higher starting dividend yield. Let's just see how it compares overall. First and foremost, dividend growth going from 61 cents 10 years ago to $1.19, almost doubling as well. Let's take a look at the dividend scorecard to see if it can beat Procter & Gamble, slightly under the total dividend years paid, about 60 years, but the dividend growth is 6.02%, so slightly higher than the likes of Procter & Gamble. But taking a look at the different sectors, they have pharmaceutical. This is like a diversified umbrella of healthcare. So from the pharmaceutical standpoint, everything from oncology to infectious disease, neuroscience, very well diversified in the pharmaceutical sector, generating $13.7 billion, seeing some growth there. We're talking about med tech highlights. This is from everything from interventional solutions to vision to surgery, generating $7.7 billion. Actually, as we've kind of gotten through the pandemic and surgeries have returned, this is seeing a very healthy double-digit growth rate. And let's talk about consumer health highlights. This includes everything from, we're talking about women's health, baby care, oral, skin, even like Tylenol, some of that stuff, generating $4 billion, which is also, I'm seeing some pretty healthy growth here, up 7.7%. Total revenues coming in at about $25 billion versus $24 billion the same time last year, with gross profit at $17 billion versus $16 billion. Again, very, very healthy earnings, very resilient, stabilizing company. Let's talk about Pepsi here real quick. This one outpacing the S&P 500, up 59% over the last 5 years, with a starting yield of 2.76%. Getting into the dividend growth, going from 54 cents to $1.27. It's much better than the last two companies we just looked at. And if we scroll back up and take a look at the dividend scorecard, this one's only been paying for 50 years, but seeing a 7.12% 5-year growth rate. Very, very healthy stuff. Again, I should also point out the payout ratios here are very favorable. They have lots of room to increase these dividends over time as well. Taking a look at the quarterly earnings, it's important to point out Pepsi basically owns so many mega brands that you maybe even aren't aware of. Things like Bubbly, Tropicana, Lay's, my favorite obviously being Doritos, the Quaker brand. But taking a look at the revenue front of it, this company generated $22.3 billion versus $20 billion this time last year. Absolutely astounding growth and a dramatic jump by almost, 20%, going from $10.8 billion to $12.2 billion in gross profit. These are three mega crazy dividend aristocrats that anybody could hold in their portfolio to offer some diversity in income and stabilize perhaps some of the volatility of other holdings or tech companies. But I'll pass that question off to you. I'd love to know what you think about this in that comment section below.